Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best items available, including some of my own personal recommendations. Thanks! What's going on? YouTube Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. A particularly interesting one. This is the Protech Knives Single Action Dark Angel OTF. This is a knife that I have been very curious about for a very long time. By the way, yes, this is a special edition version of the knife. It is not available anymore. This periodically does become available, and I will be providing a link down in the description where you can at least go look at it. I don't think it's available right now, but I'm also going to provide a link for Protech knives in general. A lot of you guys know my opinion on Protech knives is they make, I think, a couple OTFs. Maybe this is the only one. They make some of the best side opening. In fact, they make the best side opening automatic knives on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. So please check those links out. I really, really like Protech knives. But this one in particular has always interested me. In fact, single action OTFs in general have always interested me because my only experience with OTFs up to this point have been with double action, meaning the switch fires it open and then closed. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. We're going to talk about those a little bit here today. But in any case, yeah, very, very cool. This knife was sent to me along with many other Protechs and other interesting knives by @addicted to EDC on Instagram. If I'm not mistaken, he's from Kansas. So what's up, buddy? Because I'm also from Kansas. Please give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. It's also because of my generous patrons. So thank you so much for supporting me during this time. If you'd like to check out my Patreon and get your hands on some of these cool stickers, there is, of course, a link down in the description. The support would absolutely mean the world to me. So let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. This is a big knife. Tip to scale, we're coming in at 8.75 inches overall. Blade length is 3.6. Cutting edge is exactly 3.5. Big knife. Let's do some size comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. You can see there it's a little bit shorter. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, actually it won't be last for the folding knives, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Let's go ahead and lay it down up against the Microtech Combat Trudon because that's the only OTF that I own and the only one that actually, no, I've got another one. Hang on, let me get this out here just because I still have this one with me. So the Microtech Combat Trudon, by the way, is coming in a little longer. Even if you don't count the glass breaker, I think the Combat Trudon's about 9 inches. And I'll go ahead and put it up against the die rack because I still have Jeff's custom die rack here. And the die rack is very close to the size of the UTX 85 from Microtech. So hopefully this is giving you guys somewhat of a good impression there. If you want to know, how is it up against the Lightning or the Scarab, those are about the same size as the Benchmade Reptilian or earlier the Ritter Hogue. So you can go back and take a look there for all of you OTF aficionados wanting to compare and contrast. So anyways, let me carefully move that full custom off the table. Yeah, this is a big knife. Now, I want to talk about the action here because this is the next segment is the part where I always go, so how's the action on this guy? This is a single action OTF, meaning it is a primed spring. So you can see here, I push this button, pull this lever down, and you're priming a spring and it's locking. It is under tension right now, and it is under a lot of tension. Something that you should never do. First and foremost, the whole thing about holding an OTF up to a surface and pushing a button and it going right through is it's a movie thing. For anybody who's, curious about that, that is not, like if you've seen the movie It, the new one, no. That guy, that kid uses a double action OTF that's similar to the Combat Trudon, and I can tell you, if I hold this up to cardboard, it's going to derail it. So if you hold it up, if you're being really stupid with it, and yeah, emphasis on that, stupid, and you're holding it up to your skin, it'll probably leave a freaking mark. It'll probably draw blood. Don't do that. But let me emphasize this. This one will probably derail, or it won't derail it. It's just the spring power isn't enough to push it through. But it does fire really hard. Don't test this. Please. Heed my warning. This is a very powerful spring. It fires hard, and that spring is pushing the blade all the way through. It definitely fires harder and with more force than my Combat Troodon. And that Combat Troodon has a lot of spring power in it. So yeah, as soon as you push that button, it's going to come flying out the end, right? So yeah, I mean, in terms of convenience, pulling this from your pocket and simply having to rely on a button, not a lot of pressure to get that blade to fire, and it is going to fire. When you're using a double action OTF, it's a little bit safer because you have to put quite a bit of force on the switch to get it to finally fire. Then you also have the convenience of pulling it back in. So, just to be clear, I think no argument, a double action OTF is substantially safer and more convenient. People who will make an argument will say, well, in a self-defense situation where life and death comes down to a split second, having a primed single action OTF in your pocket and just pushing a button, right, might make a difference there. Okay. But, I mean, just to get this out of the way, for EDC, this item is interesting to me because it is a single action OTF. There are not many of these out there in contrast with the modern design, which is the double action, right? EDCing this, I think, is pretty dangerous. I mean, even though the button is recessed, I don't know that I feel incredibly safe about having that in my pocket. This design does have a safety, right? But that switch isn't, there's not a lot of friction there. Kind of it's almost free swinging. Now, it's my understanding that Protech will actually adjust that, right? But think about this, right-handed, I've got this thing primed, it's in my pocket, and the safety's on. It just has to move around enough for that safety to come up and for me to bump it just hard enough, even though the button's recessed, to have that go off my pocket. Now, I'm probably not, probably not going to die, but I feel like I'd go to the hospital for stitches. This is really cool. I just want to, listen, for anybody wanting to pick one of these up and actually EDC it, number one, this is going to be super illegal in a lot of places for a lot of reasons. Number one, the blade length. Number two, it is actually sharp on both sides, making it a dagger, right? And number three, it is automatic, specifically the kind that really scare people. These are the kinds that you see in the movies. I mean, seriously, these are the kind that you see in the movies. It doesn't need to be an end to that sentence. They are amongst the most dangerous types of knives. And while I will always consider a knife a tool first, this is one of those knives where when people see it and they get, upset and uncomfortable around it, I can understand that, right? I mean, like if I pull out my Victorinox Cadet and I'm like, oh, here, let me get that for you, and somebody freaks out, I'm going to say that's their fault. It's like, hey, calm down. This is, this is a Swiss Army knife, Somebody gets a little nervous around this. Yeah, completely understandable, and I know that there's lone wolves watching this channel going, I'm my own man, I'm my own woman, I walk by the beat of my own drum, I don't care what anybody thinks. All right, but it actually does, butterfly effect, kind of contribute to the problem, right? We have laws in place that are, politically motivated, but the ammunition for getting and keeping those laws in place is, constantly being replenished by people who have, in some cases, understandable fear for stuff like this. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do or how to spend their money, right? If you do want one of these, I would say be kind and respect the people around you. Understand your situation, right? Understand when it's appropriate and inappropriate. Obviously, if you're, if it's like me and I'm out in Kansas and I bought one of these and I wanted to carry it and I'm, out on some farm property by myself, like working, helping my dad with something, if I'm working in my own backyard, right? Then yeah, whatever, I'll do whatever I want. The truth is that this thing is absolutely made well and it is very, very capable. So I would appreciate, I suppose, the convenience of being able to just push a button, get the blade out and use it, right? There are some disadvantages to this, but I guess there you go. There's my soapbox. That's what I think about this. The action is awesome, though. That aside, I'm sorry, the transition there was ridiculous. This big speech about being respectful to people, like, but it's so cool, yeah, oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, it is. You push that button and it's exactly what you guys think. You push the button and it fires and it clicks and you get that recoil. You know, it's cool. Yeah, as a knife person, as a knife enthusiast, yeah, I do appreciate that. It's really neat. And on top of that, this rose gold coating that they do every now and then, I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm not sure if it's actual coating or if it's applied with heat and then polished some way. I don't know if it actually resists corrosion in addition to the composition of the steel, which is 154 cm, by the way. I don't know. But it sure does look nice. The standard version of this knife comes, I think, satin finished and with the standard black aluminum. And I mean, there are some custom versions of this. By the way, standard version of this knife comes in at $244.95 at the time of this video. But like I said, it is currently sold out. So you can go to that link and look at it if you want. But as far as, you know, Blade HQ goes, it's sold out. And I don't see them pop up on, I mean, I'm sure they're in other places, but I see them pop up periodically is what I'm saying. Action is super cool. It does not take a lot of pressure. So you push the button down to fire it, and then to release it, you actually have to push the button, and then this little lever here, you pull it down. Many times I found myself, whether I was putting it back in the case or I was just handling it, I found myself, that's safety on, putting my hands above this, you know, without being too careful. And I realized, oh, you know, this is not my double action OTF. This is a single action. For the same reason that you don't, you know, put your face right in front of a firearm or put it down the barrel of a firearm. You don't put your hands or anything else in front of the area where the blade comes out, right? Even though I just stupidly did that on camera. Don't do that. It's not safe, and it's easy to forget. Like, you know, if you accidentally push that button and the safety's not on, you're gonna, I mean, you're gonna go to the hospital and need stitches. Absolutely. This is not a safe object. You know, even around somebody who's practiced, you know, I've handled so many knives, and I handle knives on a daily basis, and I accidentally, you know, cut myself periodically, maybe once a month, right? Still, you know, this is a different monster. This is something that, you know, you really have to be cautious around for sure. Okay, let's move on here. I think you guys get it. Let's do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see there, it does sort of get thicker in the middle here. Down here at the butt, it's about the same thickness, but up here it absolutely does get a little tiny bit thicker. By the way, if you guys are wanting to know what that says, Blade Show 2019, number 40 of 50. So there's only 50 of these rose gold versions out there, and I have no idea if they plan to do it again. In terms of carry profile, up against two knives that have unquestionably awkward carry profiles, once again, the Spyderco Para 3 and PM2, and nobody ever complains about these. It is longer than both of them, but it is nowhere near as tall, even with this little switch down here, maximum height being on the switch or in the middle, or maybe even up here. You can see, no, it's not as tall. So yeah, if you actually are going to carry this, it is a long object, and that's about it. Carry profile and weight are, you know, plenty friendly in the pocket. Still going to be kind of an awkward object if you are, you know, wearing athletic shorts or skinny jeans or leather pants, right? But if you're wearing, you know, military grade tactical pants, which I feel like would be more appropriate, or if you're wearing, you know, jeans, regular pants like that, it's going to be a little bit easier. Blade stock thickness, I really don't want to, well, yeah, I mean, they still got tape on them, so let's measure it. I'm sure you guys want to know. Right, you have to, it's awkward. You got to measure the middle or right outside of the middle of this thing to get an accurate reading. Blade stock thickness. Is it really 170 thousandths? It really doesn't look like that. I don't think that that's correct. Or maybe it was 117 thousandths. I've been doing that lately. I've been misreading this because I am not smart. I'm sorry, 107. So it's between 115 and 120 thousandths, which makes a lot more sense. You need it that thin, considering it only has, you know, the room it has to taper on either side is this short little area right here, about a centimeter before it gets down to the cutting edge. So that makes sense that it's got a nice thin stock, which is the case with most OTFs. Weight on this guy, it's an aluminum body with a steel chassis, steel blade, 3.56 ounces. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely at that ounce and inch mark. I mean, if that's what you go by. I mean, there's a lot of other things to consider here in terms of whether or not it is, you know, friendly and convenient as a carryable object on your person. But if that's all you're going by, then there you go. This is an absolute winner in that department. It is very lightweight for the amount of usable cutting edge you get, and then the usable cutting edge is doubled because in this case it is a dagger blade. These only come in dagger blades, That's it. You don't have an option for a single edge on this. Though that would kind of be neat, I will admit. All right. Have we covered everything? Yeah, I think we have. There was something else that I really, really wanted to mention about this guy. But I can't remember what it is right off the bat. I'm sure you guys are wondering, what's the amount of blade play that is in this guy? You know, because most OTFs, in fact, all OTFs, and there's always at least one person. It's like, my Benchmade infill has no blade play. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. I've handled way too many of those. Those have the worst blade play of any OTF out there, even considering that OTFs, it's expected for them to have a little bit of blade play. The only ones that I know notoriously are ones that are advertised not to have any blade play is the Deadlock, the Hawk Deadlock OTF. It's like a $1,500 custom. That one won't. I think there's maybe one other one out there. It's a custom. Most have a little bit. This guy, let me get my Combat Trudon out. So here's the amount of blade play on this guy. This is a signature series. Pretty minimal, right? Here's a Marfione custom. Even less than the signature series. This guy. The same or less than the Marfione custom. Does that mean that it's better? No. No, it doesn't. It's just really solid. It's honestly, it's a lot more solid than I would have expected. I really thought that thing would move around a little bit, and I don't know if they're all like that. This is the only one I've ever handled. But yeah, impressive. And I mean, as far as I know, it locks out solid. I don't know what the locking mechanism on the inside of it is, and I'm certainly not going to test it. But considering what I know about Protech knives and how seriously they take their designs, I'm going to guess that it's pretty durable, right? Is it as durable as a triad lock? No, but what do you plan to do with this knife, right? You shouldn't be doing, this isn't a hard use knife. This is a, let's call it a moment of convenience knife. It's what this is, right? So that's pretty cool. As is the case with Protech in general, fit and finish on this guy is just excellent. The button is laid in nicely. There's no play in the button. Like I said, this thing is a little bit loose, but I think Protech said that you could get in there and, you know, adjust it, or they could adjust it. We forgot to do the hardware check. Let me go ahead and get out my WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, two items that are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them down in the Amazon store that I reference at the beginning of every video. Just pull open the store and click on knife maintenance. I believe these screws are T8. Now I'm going to be very, very careful with this, but oh wait, no, I don't have to do it because they are hex, which is the case with a lot of Protechs. Okay, well, I got an opportunity to plug those tools, so yeah. I always forget about that. Protech oftentimes uses hex. But the point is that if you really wanted to, you can get into this. I don't think Protech likes it when you get in there, but you can. The screws back here are Torx, but they are definitely, those are T6 for sure. So there you go. I'll let you guys kind of look at this area right here. Yeah, it's a big long spring. I don't know if we can actually see in there. But yeah, you can kind of see where the blade's sitting in there. No, you can't touch the blade or anything like that, so I wouldn't worry about it. Sometimes when I fire this, I forget that that lever's on one side, and there is multiple times I've actually pinched myself. So if you're going to do that, because that thing fires way harder than you expect, and multiple times you're going to get caught by that thing. It doesn't hurt unless you're way up here, and then your finger can get pinched. And I was like, ow. So that's something you have to be aware of. Every time you pull it from your pocket, you have to make sure your hands are in the right position, the safety is off, hold it like this, and push the button, and it'll fire, right? And you have to make sure your hands are out of the way. You have to make sure there's nothing in the way of the blade, because it's coming, you know? The chassis and the spring are going to throw that blade. Now, the thing that makes this inconvenient as an EDC item, like, yeah, it fires really fast, right? If you're doing regular EDC stuff, right? Let me show you how, here's how I approach a situation for EDC. Oh, you need a box opened? That is a totally appropriate speed to open a knife, right? In no situation where a box needs to be opened does a knife need to deploy this quickly, right? Is it cool? Sure, yeah. But, for EDC, that is the setting you're going to be carrying this in. So the fact that the blade fires that hard, that fast, it is pure cool factor. There is no utilitarian benefit to that in a standard EDC setting. It is purely for your enjoyment, for, the conversation piece, and you could say reliability, but, this is also doing this is also reliable, right? The Para 3 has never failed me, and that you know, in that setting. There's just a lot of extra things you have to be concerned about. Is my hand in the way? Is somebody else's hand in the way? Is there something in the way of the blade? Is my hand out of the way of the little mechanism there? And then when you're done with it, every single time, there is simply no way to do this with one hand, right? I mean, it's just not convenient. So you have to use two hands. You have to manually reload it, which is why a double action OTF is just, it's just better, period. Truthfully, guys, I was going to do a single action versus double action OTF video, but even saying it here, like, feels kind of like obvious, right? I think people for the most part know this. I'm still going to say it. It's my opinion that a double action OTF is just a better design for EDC, right? It has much less of the worry in terms of like accidental firing, you know, and you know, in terms of like safety, even if the blade does accidentally run into your hand or something, the blade's going to derail, which is appropriate, right? I like that feature. I don't want to have to worry about whether or not somebody's going to have to pull the thing back out of my arm, right? Worst case scenario, you get a nasty poke, and then you put some, you know, well, you know, obviously clean it and take care of yourself. But anyways, safer, it's more convenient, right? Especially in terms of putting the blade away. It might be a lot faster on the deployment, but it is a lot more of a cumbersome process to put the thing away. And then you have to make sure that you turn the safety back on, which, again, in that situation, for people talking about, well, in a self-defense situation, it's nice to be able to deploy that thing so, you know, ultra quickly. Well, if it's the safest position in your pocket is going to be with the safety on, then in this case, right, just to avoid it accidentally going off in your pocket, which is unlikely, but it is much more likely than a double action OTF, right? You have to get it out, then push the safety, and then push that, right? Unless you're crazy enough to walk around with this thing in your pocket with the safety off, which I would never do. Even if that safety switch was tight, that is a primed and loaded blade with a lot of firepower behind it. So there's a lot of reasons why a knife like this just doesn't make sense to carry in your pocket. I think it's kind of asking for, you know, people to be uncomfortable around you. You know, it's asking for, you know, something bad to happen. There's just a lot of reasons. However, I can't deny that I just really like this thing. It's just cool. I mean, take a look at the blade here. By the way, yeah, that line goes right down the middle. Protech is awesome about that. Perfect. I love the line through the middle, which I'm sure has something to do with the mechanisms on the inside or perhaps the lock or something. The grind lines look beautiful on both sides. The edge is perfectly symmetrical on both sides, and it is done, you know, really, really well. It is unquestionably sharp, despite not having a lot of room to drop down towards the edge. And let's talk about symmetry here, guys. The symmetry on this thing is what makes it so amazing, right? Other than that lever right there, it is a perfectly symmetrical object, which, yeah, there's a lot of joy in something like that. And I like this part. Lock that, click, and then bam, right? It's cool. I like that. This is cool factor, and it's cool factor done well. I think it's not like Protech doesn't understand the cons involved with making something like this. The other famous one is the Halo series knives from Microtech. They're on Generation 6 now, so the Halo 6, right? Same thing. It's not ultra safe. And yes, it does come with a pouch, right? I'm sure people are asking, well, what about the pouch that it comes with, right? Yeah, it comes with a pouch. That certainly makes it much safer. You can turn the safety on, put it in the pouch, right? Then it just becomes an object that you have to pull out of your pocket, undo the pouch, pull the knife out, turn the safety off, and then fire it, right? Which is, you know, contradicting the idea of the knife, which is ready deployment or quick deployment, right? It doesn't matter at that point how fast the knife deploys because you had to take all that extra time to take it out. But if you do want to EDC this thing, the least crazy way to EDC it is to turn the safety on. So obviously retract the blade, turn the safety on, and put it in the pouch. And then, yeah, then you can put it on your person, right? At that point, you're just carrying it to carry it, and you're carrying it in the safest way possible. And in that case, if you live in an area where everything else about the knife is totally legal, then yeah, that's how I'd carry it. And it would be something that I could use as a cutting tool, and it would be a conversation piece and basically nothing else. Now, in terms of performance, yeah, it seems to lock out hard. It locks out solid. It's in 154 cm, which is one of the greatest user steals of all time. It is the ingot form of CPM 154, and there is a very marginal difference in terms of potential performance in all-around corrosion resistance, toughness, and edge retention between 154 cm and CPM 154. So it is plenty appropriate for this knife. This knife is unbelievably cool. It is not something that I can recommend. In fact, there are very few people that I think I could recommend this knife to. It doesn't stop me from wanting to buy it. If you guys are wondering, would I buy it? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because I think stuff like this is super cool. I don't care if it makes sense or not. And I know, by the way, that sometimes Protech, they have reps that watch my videos. Hello, Protech. I'm really happy that you guys do that. And just so you guys know, yeah, despite all of the little things that I'm saying, you know, all the reasons why I think people shouldn't buy this or it's not as safe, I would still buy it. I have no problem admitting that. This is so cool. It's such a cool object, right? Just be careful with it, right? You have to use your brain. It sounds dumb or, you know, condescending to tell people, like, don't buy it unless you're going to use your brain. Obviously, right? But yeah, you do have to be more aware with this. And I didn't think about any of that stuff. I was just like, oh, cool, a Dark Angel. Yeah, I want to handle that. Right? I didn't think about any of this stuff until I got it in hand. And I was like, this is really dangerous. So yeah, 250 bucks in this situation. If you can find one for 250, I think it's totally worth it. Just be careful with it, right? Don't get on the secondary market and pay a crazy amount of money for this thing. But made in the USA, definitely worth the money if you can find it. I cannot recommend, there's no part of me that can say that this is a totally recommendable knife. However, while it's not going to be going on my most recommended knives playlist, it is certainly going to be going on my favorite knives of all time playlist, because it is. This is definitely worthy of that playlist. It's too cool. Cool factor's maxed out, right? Any other element of this knife that I'm like, oh, can't, you know, you got to be careful. All right, it's still going to be going on that playlist. By the way, something we didn't talk about, it's got a deep carry clip. This is an awesome clip. Recessed screws, right? So if you are going to carry it, at least it'll carry deep. Just make sure the pant material is very dense. Guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it. This is kind of an unorthodox review. I hope that at the very least you were entertained by this video. If you were, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.